The invitation arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. It was cream-coloured, embossed with gold lettering, and addressed to my fiancé, Daniel. I almost threw it into the recycling bin. Then I noticed the return address, a luxury hotel downtown. I opened it. Inside was an invitation to a private dinner for 12 people. At the bottom, someone had written, "Can't wait to celebrate before everything changes." I stared at those words for a long time. Everything changes. Our wedding was 6 months away. What was supposed to change? I called Daniel. "Hey, what's this dinner?" There was a pause. "What dinner?" "The one at the Bellman Hotel." Another pause. Then he laughed. "Oh, that. It's just a networking thing. Can I come?" "Actually, it's pretty boring. You'd hate it." That was strange. Daniel normally wanted me beside him at every business event. I put the invitation on my desk. Something didn't feel right. That evening, Daniel came home carrying flowers. He kissed my forehead. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." He smiled. "Good." Then he walked upstairs. I watched him disappear. For the first time in 3 years, I wondered whether I actually knew the man I was about to marry. The answer came 2 days later. My best friend, Maya, called me at work. "Don't panic." Whenever someone starts with those words, you panic. What happened? I was looking through the photos from the restaurant opening last weekend, and I saw Daniel. So, he wasn't alone. She sent me a picture. Daniel was sitting across from a woman I'd never seen before. They weren't touching. They weren't kissing. But the woman's hand was resting on the table beside his, and between them was a folder. Maya zoomed in. There was a title across the front, Carter Family Assets. My stomach dropped. I called Daniel immediately. He answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, sweetheart. Who's Olivia?" Silence. "Who?" "The woman you had dinner with." He laughed. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Her name is Olivia." Another pause. Then, "She's a consultant." "What kind of consultant? Why are you interrogating me?" That question told me more than his answer. I didn't argue. I simply said good night. Then I called someone else. My cousin, Renee, worked in financial compliance. I sent her the photograph. She called me 20 minutes later. "Where did you get this?" "Why?" "Because that folder contains something you need to understand." "What?" "Your name." I froze. "My name?" "Your full name." "And Daniel's." Renee explained that the document appeared to be related to an asset structure. I didn't understand all the terminology, but I understood one thing. Daniel had been discussing our finances with someone behind my back, and he had never told me. The next morning, I checked the drawer where we kept our wedding documents. Our marriage certificate wasn't there, obviously because we weren't married yet. But something else was missing. The file containing information about my grandmother's property. I had inherited a small commercial building from her 2 years earlier. Daniel had always called it our future security. Except it wasn't his. It was mine. I called Renee again. "Can someone transfer ownership without me knowing?" "Not legally." "Could someone try?" "Absolutely." That afternoon, she found something. Daniel had recently created a company. The company's registered address was not our home. It was a mailbox in another part of the city. And the company had one purpose: property acquisition. My property. Daniel had apparently been telling people that after our wedding, the building would become part of his business portfolio. But that wasn't the worst discovery. There was a loan application. He had listed my property as an anticipated asset. He had already been planning his business around something he didn't own. I felt betrayed, but I didn't confront him. Instead, I decided to find out how far the plan went. That weekend, Daniel suggested we sign a simple wedding agreement. He placed the papers on the kitchen table. "Nothing serious," he said. I looked at them. They were anything but simple. Buried in the document was a clause that would give him control over certain property. Decisions after marriage, including my building. I looked up. "Why is this here?" "It's just protection." "Protection for whom?" He smiled. "For both of us." I smiled back. "Of course." Then I signed nothing. He didn't notice. Or maybe he pretended not to. 3 days later, I received another invitation. This time, it wasn't for a dinner. It was for the opening of Daniel's new business. The business I hadn't known existed. The invitation described him as founder and managing director of Carter Urban Holdings. I nearly laughed. He was throwing a launch party for a company built around property he didn't own. So I went, not as his fiancé, as a surprise. The room was filled with investors. Daniel stood on stage explaining his vision. He spoke confidently about expanding into commercial real estate. Then he showed a photograph of my grandmother's building. Our flagship property, he said. I heard whispers around the room. Someone asked when the acquisition would be completed. Daniel smiled. Immediately after my marriage. That's when I walked forward. Actually, Daniel, I don't remember agreeing to that. The room went silent. His face changed. Emily, I smiled. Please continue. He stepped off the stage. We need to talk privately. No. His voice dropped. Not here. Why not? Because suddenly everyone was watching him. The investors. The employees. The people he'd apparently told that my property belonged to him. I held up the documents. Maybe you can explain why you've been presenting my building as company property. One of the investors stood. Daniel couldn't answer. I turned to the room. I was supposed to marry this man in 6 months. Nobody moved. I recently discovered that he had already built a business plan around property he doesn't own, created financial documents suggesting he would acquire it, and tried to get me to sign away control without explaining what I was signing. Daniel grabbed my arm. Stop. I pulled away. Don't touch me. That was when Olivia stepped forward. I think everyone deserves to know the rest. Daniel stared at her. You said you wouldn't. She looked at me. I'm sorry. Then she handed me a folder. I was hired to structure the company. I opened it. Inside were emails. Daniel had written to her repeatedly. One sentence appeared again and again. Once we're married, she'd trust me enough to sign. I looked at him. How long? He said nothing. How long have you been planning this? Finally, he whispered. About a year. A year. While I planned flowers. While I chose a wedding venue. While I believed I was building a future. He had been planning to gain control of mine. I left. The wedding was cancelled the following morning. Daniel tried everything. Apologies. Promises. Flowers. Even a letter claiming he had only been trying to protect our future. I gave everything to my attorney. And then something unexpected happened. One of the investors contacted me. He said Daniel had misrepresented several other business arrangements. Another investor came forward. Then another. Within weeks, Daniel's carefully constructed company collapsed. The people who had trusted him wanted their money back. The company was investigated. And the documents he tried to hide became evidence. But I didn't wait around to watch him fall. I sold my grandmother's building. Not because I needed the money. Because I wanted nothing connected to that period of my life. With part of the proceeds, I opened a small design studio. The rest went into investments in my own name. 6 months later, I received a message from Daniel. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I just want you to know that I really did love you. I read it once. Then I deleted it. Maybe he had loved me. Maybe he hadn't. I eventually realized that it didn't matter. Love without honesty is just another kind of risk. A year after the cancelled wedding, Maya and I were sitting outside my new studio when she asked me something. Do you ever regret finding out? I laughed. Sometimes I regret not finding out sooner. She shook her head. No, you found out before it was too late. She was right. I had almost married a man who thought my trust was an opportunity. But the wedding invitation that exposed him had given me something far more valuable than a wedding ever could. It gave me the chance to walk away. And I learned something I wish I'd understood earlier. Never confuse someone's confidence with their honesty. Sometimes the person smiling while planning your future is the very person you need to watch most carefully. I didn't lose my future that year. I got it back. Enjoying this story? Subscribe now and turn on notifications.